The first thing Harper Quinn noticed was the taste of dust in her mouth. The surgical mask did not stop it. Sand crept in at the edges, dry and bitter, clinging to the back of her throat as the field hospital shuddered with the distant thump of artillery. The overhead lights flickered in the canvas ceiling, running on a generator that coughed like an old smoker. Heat pressed against her shoulders under the damp scrub top. Sweat ran down the inside of her gloves. BP 60 over 30 and falling, someone shouted over the noise. Captain, he is circling the drain. Harper leaned closer to the open abdomen in front of her. The young operator on the table was ghost white lips, blue dog tags, stuck to his chest with dried blood. The air smelled of metal iodine and burned flesh. Her hands moved fast, fingers probing through warm, slippery tissue, searching for the leak that was killing him faster than the morphine could mask. She tuned out the roar outside the tremor under her feet, the radio static cutting across 3 different languages. All that mattered was the heat under her gloves and the fading pulse on the monitor clipped to a nail driven into a wooden beam. There, she breathed. She pinched a pulsing artery between thumb and forefinger. Blood slowed, then stopped pressure against her grip like a heartbeat captured and held. The anesthesiologist exhaled a curse that might have been a prayer. The monitor beeped in an unsure rhythm, then steadied into something that sounded like a promise. Clamp, Harper said. Her scrub tech fumbled for a second, metal clinking in a kidney tray, then dropped the curved clamp into her palm. She slid it into place, let her fingers relax, and watched for a fresh surge of red. None came. The field tent snapped in the wind. Somewhere outside, voices shouted coordinates. General Elias Ward shoved the tent flap aside with his shoulder. He did not bother to duck under the low canvas. Dust swirled in with him, turning the harsh surgical light into a murky halo around his silhouette. "How much longer, Captain?" His voice cut through the room. Harper did not look up. 5 minutes. "You have 60 seconds, Ward replied. "Bird is inbound. If he dies, the intel dies." "He's not dying on my table," she said. She did not raise her voice. Her hands answered for her, tying a knot in the suture with a speed that broke the rules of neatness, but obeyed physics. Another knot. She checked the clamp, the liver, the hidden pocket of blood pooling under the diaphragm. She grabbed a length of repurposed fishing line, the only suture material that had not snapped in the heat, and closed another tear she had not planned to find. 60 seconds. The anesthesia monitor chirped. The pulse climbed from a whisper to a weak knock. "Time cassettes. Most name," Ward pressed. Harper wiped sweat from her eyebrow with her forearm. "Pulse is back. He is going." 2 medics slid in at her command hands, practiced ready to transfer. Ward watched the operator's chest rise under the bandages, watched his fingers twitch against the restraints. "You always find a third way," he said quietly, close enough that only she could hear. "That is what makes you useful." Harper met his eyes for an instant. The generator coughed again. The light above the table flickered, then steadied. Her gloved hands, painted with dried and fresh blood, hung still for the first time in hours. Then the scene dissolved into white. The monitor beep remained, but the heat was gone. Dust became disinfectant. The glow returned as a cleaner, colder light. It bounced off polished tile, stainless steel, and glass instead of canvas and sandbags. The smell was different here, a hospital-clean mix of alcohol, leftover coffee, and lemon floor cleaner. The sound of artillery had been replaced by the soft moan of an elevator and the low murmur of early morning voices. Dr. Maya Cole stepped out of the parking garage elevator into the main corridor of St. Jude Regional Trauma Center in Denver, Colorado, at 6:42 in the morning. Her badge still caught on the frayed edge of her pocket when she walked the plastic corner, tapping her hip. The photograph on it showed a neutral smile under dark hair, pulled back a little too tight, eyes that did not quite belong to a second-day attending. She smoothed the badge with her thumb, reading the name as if it belonged to someone she had once met in passing. Maya Cole, MD, Trauma Surgery. The letters were crisp, the laminate new. The lanyard creaked when she adjusted it. The weight at her chest felt unfamiliar. The main corridor opened toward the emergency department. Through the glass wall, she saw a handful of nurses leaning over the central station, scrolling through their phones, coffee cups tucked between elbow and keyboard. A janitor polished a section of floor that already shone. On the far wall, the trauma board was almost empty, only 2 names scrawled in red marker from the night shift. No dust, no generator, no ward. Just the soft whir of climate control and the faint hiss of oxygen behind a closed door. "Dr. Cole?" She turned. Dr. Owen Blake approached with a chart in his hand, and fatigue creased into his forehead. His scrubs were a shade darker from a long night hair crushed on one side, as if he had slept on it for 15 minutes in a chair. He walked with the ownership of someone who had spent the last decade in the same hallways under the same lights. "Morning," Maya said. He looked her over, once eyes flicking to her badge, then back to her face. "You are early." You said be here at 7. It is not 7 yet. I like to see the battlefield before the shooting starts, she replied. The word slipped out before she could filter it. Owen's brow twitched, a tiny reaction gone as soon as it appeared. He handed her the chart. Day 2, he reminded her. Keep it simple. Follow protocol. This place does not need heroes. I am not a hero, Maya said. I am a surgeon. According to your file, you are a perfect one, Favat, he said. Stanford, Hopkins, clean records, no disciplinary notes, no gaps. Something in his tone made the words less compliment and more question. Sounds boring, she answered. Boring is underrated around here. A pair of residents hurried past, their voices low, but not low enough. That is the Boston runner-up, right? One whispered. The one we got because the star went to Mass General, the other replied. They did not think she heard. Maya did not react. Her fingers traced the edge of the chart, instead feeling the paper give a little under her nail. Owen shot them a look that shut them up instantly. Then he nodded toward the glass wall. You have walked the unit yet? He asked. Not yet. Come on, learn the layout before it starts raining. They stepped through the automatic doors into the emergency department. The air felt a little cooler there, still morning slow. A television in the waiting room muttered a news anchor's cheerful cadence over muted footage of traffic patterns and weather maps. Someone had left a half-finished crossword on a chair. 4 trauma bays down that hall, Mive, Owen said. Radiology is 1 floor up and hates to be rushed. ICU is 2 floors above that and will pretend it does not know you until you save one of their patients. Price is the hospital administrator. He thinks in headlines. If you keep him in good headlines, he stays off your back. That is quite a map, she said. You will draw your own soon enough. At the nurse's station, Ruth Alvarez was already in place. White hair twisted into a bun, glasses perched halfway down her nose. Her navy scrubs were faded at the seams. Lines radiated from the corners of her eyes, more from smiling than from frowning. A mug sat by her keyboard, the surface stained by years of coffee. Morning, Ruth, Owen said. This is Dr. Cole, our new trauma hire. Ruth looked up and took a moment longer than necessary to study Maya. Her gaze moved from the badge to the face, then down to the hands resting on the chart. Strong fingers, short nails. One pale thin scar across the knuckle of the right index finger like an old burn. Second day, huh? Ruth said. You pick a good one for it. Mondays are quiet, mostly. I will take quiet, Maya replied. Ruth smiled, but there was something curious behind it. We will see. The intercom clicked on overhead. A burst of static cracked through the easy rhythm of the room. The pleasant background noise of morning television went small in an instant. All trauma staff to receiving FAP, the operator said. Mass casualty alert, multi-vehicle collision on I-70 eastbound, estimated 20 critical incoming, 5 minutes. Every sound in the department sharpened. Chairs scraped. Coffee cups hit counters. The crossword slid from its chair to the floor. The trauma board on the far wall waited a blank field ready for names. Maya's fingers closed around the chart. The hall lights seemed a fraction brighter, as if someone had turned the dimmer up without warning. For a breath, she heard distant artillery, again felt canvas walls at her back. Then she exhaled, straightened her shoulders, and followed Owen toward the doors that led to the ambulance bay, hands already flexing inside invisible gloves. The shooting was about to start. The automatic doors to the ambulance bay slid open on a blast of cold air and sirens. Red and blue light pulsed against the concrete, washing the white walls in color. The smell of exhaust and metal rushed in with the sound of engines, radios, wheels rattling over the ramp. For a second, the world outside the hospital felt closer than it should, like the parking lot had shifted a few inches into a war zone. Maya stepped into it without breaking stride. Gurneys lined the corridor, already stripped and waiting. Respiratory techs wrestled portable ventilators into place. A resident, cheeks flushed, was trying to pull a lead apron over scrubs that did not quite fit. Where are we on bays? Owen called. 1 through 4 open, Ruth answered from the doorway, voice steady but sharper now. 5 is tied up with the GI bleed from last night. It is a mass casualty, Owen said. Clear 5, move the bleed to step down. Ruth did not argue. She picked up a phone, started barking orders into it. Nurses moved in response, a small unit with practiced roles. The trauma board on the wall had been wiped clean. A nurse with a green marker wrote in quick strokes. I-70 pileup, ETA 3, then a list of numbers 1 to 20 each with an empty line beside it. A paramedic burst through the bay doors, hair plastered to his forehead with sweat. First wave 5, critical 14 more on scene, Farhi said. Multiple vehicles, at least 1 big rig. We need to unload fast. The lead ambulance backed up to the dock. The siren cut off but left a phantom ring in the ears. The back doors flew open. Trauma team on me, Owen said. Maya moved to his shoulder. The air inside the ambulance was hot and thick with the copper stink of blood. A man in his 50s lay strapped to the stretcher, eyes wide, breaths shallow and high. The steering wheel was still lodged in his chest. It looked wrong in a way the body was not designed to accommodate. Plastic and metal had crumpled around the force of the impact, embedded in ribs, skin torn in a ragged circle. Each breath made a wet, sucking sound. We had to cut the column to get him out, the paramedic said. BP is dropping sats are in the 70s. We are losing him. Get him to Bay 1, Owen ordered. Maya grabbed the side rail of the stretcher. On my count, she said. 1, 2, lift. They moved together a practiced choreography that might have belonged to another team on another continent. The wheels hit the ramp and rattled. The man groaned a sound, half swallowed by the cervical collar under his jaw. Inside Bay 1, the lights were already on, glaring and unforgiving. Monitors waited with blank screens. A respiratory tech snapped an oxygen mask into place. A nurse cut away the rest of the man's shirt, exposing a chest mottled with bruises and shards of safety glass. Name, Maya asked. Driver's license says Mitchell Harris, the nurse replied. 54, no known allergies in the wallet. That is all we have. Mitchell, Maya said, leaning close enough for him to see her eyes if he could still focus. I am Dr. Cole. Stay with us. Try not to move. He made a weak gurgling sound, not quite a word. Owen stood at the foot of the bed, running through protocol. Massive chest trauma. Type and cross for 6 units. Prep for emergency thoracotomy. We wait for imaging if he holds pressure. If not, we crack in here. We are not waiting, Maya said. His head snapped up. Excuse me. Listen to the chest, she said. She did not move aside, but she shifted enough so he could hear. The left side sounded distant, barely there. The right side was full of broken music air and blood fighting for the same real estate. The steering wheel had pinned the sternum, making each breath a losing battle. Trachea is shifted right, she said. Look. She tilted Mitchell's chin, exposing the line of his neck. The cartilage was not where it should be. It rode slightly to one side, subtle to anyone who did not spend years reading bodies under worse lights. Tension pneumo, Owen said. Tension plus a foreign body through the mediastinum, Maya replied. You wait for imaging, he arrests on the table. Needle decompression now. Standard is chest tube first, a resident piped in, voice thin. Standard is for textbooks, Maya said. 14 gauge, second intercostal space, mid-clavicular line. She held out her hand. A nurse dropped the needle into her glove. There was no pause. She did not ask again. She pressed 2 fingers to feel for the right spot, then drove the needle in with a firm, practiced motion. A hiss of trapped air rushed out, the sound sharp in the tight bay. Mitchell's chest moved with a little more freedom. The monitor flickered to life. Heart rate low but present. Oxygen saturation climbing 1 digit, then another. Tube, she said. Get a chest tube in that side, and somebody make sure they are typing him for at least 8 units, not 6. That steering wheel is sitting on something important. Outside, another siren wailed closer. Owen watched her for a heartbeat too long, then shook himself. Do what she says, he told the team. To Maya, he added, you cannot cut through that here. You do not know how deep it goes. Then we make a controlled mess and move, she said. Dr. Cole. She met his eyes. His were hazel-tired and right now wary. You brought me in to save people, not to admire the hardware, she said quietly. If we wait, he dies. If we take it out without control, he dies. We stabilize enough to get him upstairs. 3 minutes. You watch my hands. It was not a challenge. It was a statement of process. She already had a scalpel in hand. Fine, he said. You lead. I will assist. The resident near the head of the bed blinked, surprised. A nurse at the door muttered under her breath, too low for anyone but Ruth to hear. Ruth was in the doorway, one hand on the frame, eyes flicking between the clock and the patient. Bay 2 just filled, she said. Paramedics are starting compressions on a teenage female. Blunt trauma to the abdomen and chest. Bay 3 has a motorcyclist with an open femur. Bay 4 incoming. We have 18 more in the field. Owen swore under his breath. Maya, he said. I heard, she replied. You go. I have Mitchell. We do not leave new attendings alone with a case like this. You are not leaving me alone. You are covering 19 other bleeding people. Her hands were already making the first incision around the embedded plastic, cutting a controlled ring of skin and fascia to create space without disturbing the deeper damage. Owen hesitated. Ruth watched him, then stepped in. Go, Owen, she said. She knows what she's doing, or she's very confident bluffing it. Either way, we do not have the luxury to argue. For a second, the 3 of them formed a triangle around the bed. Then Owen made the calculation every trauma leader learned to make. Any sign of tamponade, you call me, he said. You will hear me, Maya answered. He left, pulling the curtain halfway as he stepped into the hall. The noise of the other bays rushed in through the gap. More sirens, more shouted numbers. Ruth moved to the foot of the bed, keeping one eye on the monitor and one on the hallway. Breath is improving, the respiratory tech reported. Sats are up to 88. Better than 70, Maya said. Clamp ready. She freed a piece of plastic from a rib with the care of someone diffusing a mine. Sweat trickled down the back of her neck. Her vision tunneled around the field. The overhead light was a white circle that erased everything beyond the wound. For a moment, she did not see tile and stainless steel. She saw canvas and shadows again, heat and dust, a different chest opened under different circumstances. Her hands felt the phantom weight of a rifle stock bumping her elbow. Her heart kicked once against her ribs. Doctor, Ruth said quietly. The word tugged her back. Almost there, Maya replied. She eased the steering wheel fragment up half a centimeter, no more. A fresh well of blood swelled. She pressed 2 fingers in, found the arterial spurt by feel, and pinned it. Clamp, she said, breath a little shorter now. Metal kissed her palm. She slid it in over her fingers, closed it on the vessel, released her grip slowly. The bleeding slowed to a soak instead of a spray. Mitchell's blood pressure nudged upward. The monitor responded beeping with a little more confidence. Okay, Fess, she said. Pack and prep to move. Call upstairs. Tell them we are coming in 5. ICU or OR? Ruth asked. Or, Maya said. He needs a controlled chest, not this. You got him this far. Ruth said, a note of something like approval in her voice. Maya did not answer. She kept her eyes on the wound as she packed it. The feeling of the clamp between her fingers lingered, even after she pulled her hand away. Outside the curtain, the trauma board was already filling. A nurse wrote names beside the numbers, some still just descriptions. Mitchell Harris, M54 chest steering wheel, female teen blunt chest, ABD CPR en route. Male 30s open femur MCC, female 40s head lac AMs. The list went on. Little details slipped in. A mention of a government employee on his way to work, a note on a pregnant woman stuck in a sedan, a commuter bus of office staff. 20 lines waiting for outcomes. Maya stepped back from the bed and stripped one bloody glove off fingers, pulling at the cuff. Her palm was damp skin pale where the glove had pressed tight. Doctor, the nurse at the board called. We need assignments for the next wave. Maya glanced at Mitchell still alive in Bay 1, then at the lines of ink on the board. Start by age and airway, she said. Then by who is still talking. The quiet ones are the ones you watch. Ruth's gaze lingered on her profile for a beat. You really have done this before, Ruth said. Maya picked up a fresh pair of gloves. Bring me the next one, she said. The second ambulance hit the dock before Mitchell's blood pressure had finished climbing. Maya pulled on fresh gloves as she walked the latex, snapping against damp skin. The air in the corridor between bays had thickened with sweat and antiseptic. The hum of voices lifted a few notes higher. The monitors in bays 2 and 3 already sang their urgent songs. A paramedic backed out of Bay 2 chest, heaving hands still pressed together in the invisible rhythm of compressions. Teenage female, he said, catching sight of Maya. Found unresponsive in the back seat. Steering column went through the driver. She took the airbag. No seatbelt. We have been doing CPR. CPR for 6 minutes. Maya brushed past him into the bay. The girl on the table looked small under all the equipment. Maybe 16, maybe younger hair in a messy braid streaked with dust. Her t-shirt had been cut away, exposing a chest mottled purple and yellow where the airbag had slammed into her. A resident was counting compressions under his breath, sweat dripping from his nose. Another resident tried to get a line, fingers fumbling with the catheter. Hold compressions, Maya said. The resident froze, mid-push, arms shaking. On my command, she added. Check pulse. The respiratory tech pressed fingers to the neck. Everyone leaned over as if closeness could summon a heartbeat. Nothing bien, the tech said. Resume, Maya said. Harder, let the ribs complain. She scanned the monitors. Flatline. No electrical activity at all. True asystole, the kind that wrote its own outcome in most hospitals. Rhythm, Owen asked from the doorway. Asystole, the resident answered. Blunt trauma, prolonged scene time. Protocol says terminate after 20 minutes without return of spontaneous circulation. How long have you been working? Maya asked. 8 minutes, the paramedic replied. Maya looked at the girl's chest, at the bruises over the breastbone and the left side, at the faint swelling low on the abdomen. Name, she asked. ID in the pocket says Hannah Reese, the nurse said. 16, high school ID. Family. Phone is locked. Wallet has a folded sticky note. The nurse glanced at it. Emergency contact is a David Reese and an email. It is a government address, nsa.gov. That detail brushed the back of Maya's mind, filed itself away without asking permission. Ultrasound, she said. We do not fast scan on asystole blunt trauma, the resident with the catheter said. There is no point. If she has no rhythm, she is already gone. Maya picked up the ultrasound probe herself, snapping a sheath over it. The gel felt cold on the girl's bruised skin. She moved quickly, one hand guiding the probe, the other adjusting the tiny machine. The screen flickered with grainy gray. A sliver of the heart appeared motionless. No squeeze, no flutter, just a static shape. That is it, the resident said softly. Maya did not move the probe away. She shifted lower, scanning the abdomen. Black pools of fluid sat where they did not belong. She is full of blood, Maya said. Blunt abdominal trauma with no cardiac activity, Owen said. We call it. We need this bae for someone we can actually save. Her heart is not beating, Maya said. It does not mean it cannot be persuaded. The resident stared at her. We cannot crack the chest on a 16-year-old who has been in a systole for 6 minutes. Maya looked at him finally. Do you want to save her? She asked. Or do you want to be right about the protocol when you tell her father? The words landed heavy in the tight space. For a second, the only sound was the slap of gloved hands on the girl's chest as compressions resumed. Owen stepped further into the bay. Harper, he said. The name was not his. It slipped out from some place it did not belong, as if the sight of her with a scalpel had pulled a thread from a memory he did not know he had. Maya did not flinch, but her shoulders tightened. It is Dr. Cole, she said at the... Ja, me fused pen. He exhaled, shook off whatever had tried to surface. Dr. Cole, he corrected. We have 18 more patients coming. We have to triage. We are triaging, she said. We have a young body with no comorbidities whose heart stopped because there is blood where it should not be. We can take it out of the equation. You are talking about resuscitative thoracotomy on a teenager. Left incision quick cross clamp. If we get a rhythm back, she has a chance. If we do not, we lose 3 minutes and a little steel. The resident with the catheter swallowed. I have never done one. Watch, she said. She did not look to Owen for permission again. She moved to the side of the bed, marking an invisible line beneath the girl's left nipple. The skin was cool under her glove. Her hand was steady. Scrub, Owen said to the resident. You assist her. If she is wrong, I will take the heat. The resident fumbled for a gown and fresh gloves, pulse visible at his throat. Maya picked up the scalpel. Stop compressions, she said. Ruth, you are timing. Timer ready, Ruth replied, lips pressed tight. The blade parted skin and subcutaneous fat in a clean, sure stroke. She cut through muscles with a spreading motion, not delicate but efficient. She could feel the ribs under the tissue, familiar landmarks in an anatomy she could draw blindfolded. The smell changed when she opened the pleural space, a wet, cold scent under the chemical clean. She used a rib spreader, shallow and quick metal clicking as she cranked it open far enough to see. The heart lay still in the chest the size of a fist. A dark clot hugged its base. Pericardial tamponade, she said. That is why we had nothing on the ultrasound. It is suffocating. She nicked the sac. A rush of dark blood spilled out. The heart shifted, freed from its compress. Resume internal compressions, she said to the resident. Hands on the heart, not the table. He swallowed again, then did as told, cupping the heart between his palms and squeezing in rhythm. The feeling made his face go pale, but his hands kept moving. Cross clamp, Maya said. A vascular clamp appeared in her palm. She slid it along the aorta, feeling for the right spot, by tactile memory closing it to shunt blood to the heart and brain instead of the ruined abdomen. Check rhythm, she said. The monitor that had been flat for so long flickered. A tiny complex stumbled across the screen. Then another. Pulses, Ruth said quietly. The respiratory tech checked the carotid. I have something, CA, he said, weak but something. Systolic is 40, the nurse reported. It is not nothing. Welcome back, Hannah, Maya said. Her voice was soft, but there was no softness in her hands as she secured the clamp and packed the chest enough to stabilize the open field. We have about 20 minutes to get her to an OR and fix the holes before this buys us nothing, she said. Call upstairs. Tell them we are bringing her now. Owen stared at the monitor, then at the open chest, then at Maya. Who trained you? He asked. There was no accusation in his tone this time, only disbelief. People who did not have the luxury of losing 16-year-olds, she said. She stepped back so the team could prep the gurney for transport, stripping off her gloves as she walked. Blood had seeped through to her skin at the wrist. There was no dust to cling to it here, only the glare of fluorescent lights. The hall outside the bay had narrowed with bodies. 2 more gurneys waited. A man in his 30s with his leg twisted at an angle no joint should tolerate. A woman in her 40s with glass in her hair and a bandage over one eye. A bus driver gripping the rail with white knuckles. Bay 3, Owen called. Open femur. That is yours, Liam. Do not let him bleed out from his thigh while you admire the x-rays. Bay 4, head lac, check for intracranial bleed. Use your words out loud so we all know what you are thinking. Maya wiped her hands on a towel and stepped to the trauma board. 9 of the 20 lines were filled now. Names, ages, injuries. Hannah Reese had found her place at number 2. A small green dot had been added beside her name, barely noticeable. Maya frowned. "What is the dot?" she asked. Ruth, standing at the board with the marker, did not look up at first. "Just a way to keep track," she said. "Of what?" "Who has family on the way?" Ruth said easily. "We have got someone from registration flagging it when they call, helps us prep them." It sounded plausible. It sounded like the kind of system a nurse who had been here for 30 years would come up with to soften the blow of bad news. Still, the timing nagged at the back of Maya's thoughts. Hannah had no parents in the waiting room yet, just a name and a government email on a scrap of paper. "Doctor," a paramedic interrupted at her elbow. "We have a pregnant female in Bay 5, 28 weeks, steering wheel impact to the abdomen. She is hypotensive and complaining of decreased fetal movement." Bay 5 was not a trauma bay, but it had monitors and oxygen and walls. Today, that was enough. "I will take her," Maya said. As she walked, she glanced back once. Ruth was adding another name to the board, neat block letters. Beside it, another small green dot bloomed next to a description. "Male 40s Go VT contractor, chest trauma." Maya turned away and pushed through the curtain into Bay 5, the sound of the monitors folding over her like a familiar, relentless tide. Bay 5 smelled faintly of citrus cleaner overlaid with fear. The woman on the bed clutched her belly with both hands, knuckles white against the stretched fabric of a maternity top. Her hair stuck to her forehead in damp strands. The monitor above her showed a heart rate that ran too fast and a blood pressure that hugged the low end of acceptable. "I was almost to the exit," she gasped. "The car in front of me just stopped. I did not even see the truck coming." "Ma'am, I need you to look at me," Maya said. Brown eyes locked onto hers, wide and bright. "What is your name?" "Elena," she said. "Elena Sloan." "How far along are you, Elena?" 28 weeks, 29 on Tuesday. The baby was kicking all morning, and now I do not feel him. Is he okay?" The question hung between them, heavy and urgent. "We are going to find out," Maya said. "Has anyone scanned you yet?" Elena shook her head. "They just put me in here and said someone would come." "Any medical problems before today? High blood pressure, diabetes?" "No, everything was fine. I had an appointment next week. My husband was going to come, but he had to fly out." "Where does he work?" Maya asked, almost as an afterthought. Elena swallowed. "Defense Intelligence Agency. He was supposed to be back by Thursday." The answer brushed the same place in Maya's mind that the NSA email had touched. It settled beside it, not yet formed into a pattern, but waiting. "Okay, Pish," Maya said. "We are going to listen to the baby, and then we are going to check inside. You will hear words you do not recognize. That does not mean things are bad. It just means we are busy." She nodded to the nurse. "Get fetal heart tones, call OB, tell them we are assessing for possible placental abruption, and I want a stat ultrasound portable in here." The nurse moved efficient and quick. A Doppler probe pressed to Elena's abdomen. For a moment there was only the whoosh of maternal blood flow. Then a faster heartbeat filled the room, high and steady. "There he is," the nurse said, relief in her voice. Elena began to cry, not from pain this time, but from the sudden release of a breath she had been holding since the crash. "Is he okay?" she whispered. "He is telling us he is still fighting," Maya said. "We will help him." The portable ultrasound arrived. Gel again cold on bruised skin. Maya moved the probe with firm hands. Fluid around the baby, placenta located, a thin sheet of blood pooling where it should not be. "Partial abruption," she said. "He is compensating for now. She is not." Elena's blood pressure dipped another notch. "We need blood and we need OB down here now," Maya said. "Type and cross, 2 large bore IVs, prep for possible emergency C-section on the table if she crashes." "You are not OB," the nurse said, more habit than protest. "I have delivered children in worse places," Maya replied. "She will get a specialist. Until then, she has me." The rest of the next hour blurred into a rhythm of choices. Mitchell went upstairs alive. Hannah left Bay 2 with an open chest and a faint but present pulse. The motorcyclist's leg was stabilized, the headlock in Bay 4 was stapled and sent for scans. The pregnant woman clung to consciousness, her baby's heartbeat a steady drum above the chaos, while OB rushed to scrub in downstairs. By the time noon edged against the horizon, the trauma board was packed. All 20 lines held names or placeholder descriptions. 7 of them had small green dots beside them. Mitchell Harris, Hannah Reese, Elena Sloan, a software engineer for a defense contractor, a commuter with a badge from a federal building that was not supposed to exist on public maps, a contractor who worked in logistics for an alphabet agency the nurse could not pronounce, a bus passenger whose emergency contact had a number that routed through a secure switchboard. Maya saw the dots now whenever she glanced at the board. She did not know what they meant, not yet, only that Ruth had chosen to mark those and not the others. By the time the last ambulance in the first wave had emptied, the department smelled like stale coffee and sweat under the scrubbed clean. The adrenaline spike flattened into a long, steady burn. "Get something to drink," Ruth told Maya at one point, shoving a bottle of water into her hand. "You are no good to them if you drop." Maya drank half the bottle without tasting it. Her hand still vibrated with remembered pressure clamps bone under skin. Owen found her a few minutes later at the nurse's station, eyes on the board. "That is 3 miracles before lunch," he said. "Which one is a miracle?" she asked, without looking away. "Mitchell should have died in the ambulance. Hannah should have stayed dead. Elena should have lost the baby and possibly her uterus. Instead, they are all upstairs annoying other departments." Maya set the empty bottle down. "Annoying other departments sounds like a good outcome," she said. He watched her profile the focused set of her mouth, the way her gaze tracked the numbers as if she were mentally re-triaging them even now. "Who taught you to cut into a teenager's chest like that without flinching?" he asked. "Anatomy lab," she said. He did not smile. "I'm serious. So am I." He let it go outwardly at least, but an hour later, as the second wave of patients thinned and the department shifted into the long tail of observation and consults, Owen stepped into his office and closed the door. The small room held the usual life of a trauma chief. Family photos, a stack of unread journals, 2 empty coffee mugs, and one that was only half abandoned. He sat behind the computer and pulled up Maya Cole's file. Stanford undergrad. Hopkins for med school. Top 10% of her class. Surgical residency at a prestigious program fellowship in trauma and critical care. Letters of recommendation that read like templates. No disciplinary actions, no leaves of absence, no gaps. It was too neat. He picked up the phone and dialed the number for the Hopkins trauma department. It rang long enough for him to imagine the whole idea as overreaction, then clicked. "Trauma office?" a woman said. "This is Dr. Owen Blake from St. Jude in Denver," he said. "I'm calling about a former trainee, Dr. Maya Cole. She did residency and fellowship with you according to her file." There was a pause as keys clacked. "Yes, we have her on the record," the woman said. "Completed residency and fellowship, excellent board scores." "Do you recall any particular cases she was involved in? Any faculty who might remember her performance in the OR? I'm trying to get a sense of her practical style. She's new to our staff." "One moment." He listened to hold music that was a little too cheerful for the topic. The woman came back. "I checked with 3 of the attendings who were here during her time," she said. "They remember the name, no specific stories, no complaints, no major accolades either." "Nothing?" he asked. "She seems to have been very solid on paper," the woman said. "No one had anything bad to say. They just did not have anecdotes." He frowned. "Nobody that good is forgettable," he said mostly to himself. "Sorry," she asked. "Nothing, he replied. "Thank you for your time." He hung up and stared at the file on the screen. The cursor blinked near the bottom as if waiting for him to type. A knock interrupted his thoughts. He closed the window as the door opened. Leonard Price stepped in without waiting. The hospital administrator's tie was a shade too bright for the occasion, as if he had dressed for a board meeting and walked into a disaster instead. He carried the smell of cologne and printer ink. "We have a situation," Leonard said. "We have 20, Owen replied. "Which one are you talking about?" Leonard held up a folder with a red tab. "Federal situation," he said. "2 agents from the Bureau are downstairs asking for your new trauma star." Owen's shoulders tensed. "For Dr. Cole?" "Yes. They want to speak with her about her credentials. They were very insistent." "We are in the middle of a mass casualty," Owen said. "They can wait." Leonard shifted his weight. "They flashed a lot of badges," he said. "And they said the words national security more than once. You know how that goes." Owen stood. "Where are they?" "Conference room by the staff lounge. I told them you would bring her as soon as she had a free minute." Owen thought of Hannah's open chest, Mitchell's clamped artery, Elena's fragile placenta. He thought of 7 green dots on the board. "She does not have a free minute," he said. "Make one when Leonard replied, "or they will." Back in the department, the rhythm had changed again. No more sirens. Just the slow churn of follow-up. A nurse hung a fresh bag of fluids. A tech wiped dried blood from the floor with deliberate strokes. Maya stood at a computer station entering notes with quick, economical movements. Her hair had escaped its tie and curled damply at her temples. A faint crease had settled between her brows. "Dr. Cole," Owen said. She looked up. "FBI is here for you," he said. She kept her face still. Only her hand paused above the keyboard. "For what reason?" she asked. "They want to talk about your credentials," he said. "I did not invite them. Leonard did." "Of course he did." They are in Conference B. I will walk you in. That is not necessary, she said. It might be. Ruth glanced up from the trauma board as they passed. Her eyes lingered on Maya, then on Owen, then dropped back to the marker in her hand. Conference B was a small room with a faux wood table and 8 chairs that had seen too many staff meetings. 2 people waited inside. The woman rose first. She was in her 30s, dark hair, pulled back suit, neat but not flashy. Her eyes were alert, taking in details without being obvious about it. Dr. Cole, she said, I am Special Agent Jenna Park with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is my partner, Special Agent Daniel Cross. The man beside her stood as well. Taller shoulders, straight haircut, close enough to be military if it had not been softened by time. His suit hung just right. His gaze felt like a scanner, quick and measuring. Doctor, he said. Maya took the chair opposite them. Owen stayed by the wall. We are currently managing the fallout from a 20-car pileup, Maya said. You have 5 minutes before I am needed back in the trauma bays. Park nodded. We will be concise. We are here because something started ringing alarms in our system as those patients came in. 20 car accidents tend to ring alarms, Maya said. Not like this, Cross said. Park slid a thin folder across the table. Inside, Maya saw printed versions of the intake forms. 7 clipped together. We ran your patient list through a standard check, Park said. We do that when there is any mass casualty event. It helps us identify potential threats. What we found is that 7 of the 20 have direct ties to federal intelligence agencies. Maya did not reach for the folder. She let her eyes flick down to the top form instead. Mitchell Harris, employer listed as Rocky Ridge Data Center. A line of small print beneath it identified it as a subcontractor for a secure communications project. The next form, Hannah Reese, Father David Reese, contact email ending in nsa.gov. The next, Elena Sloan, husband, Major David Sloan, DIA. Each page added another connection. You see the issue, Cross said. Looks like bad luck on a busy stretch of highway, Maya said. 7 people tied to intelligence, all in the same pileup, all critical, all landing in the same trauma center, Park said. Luck has a hard time explaining that. Maya felt the room press in by a fraction. The air conditioner hummed. Someone laughed down the hall, muffled through the wall. And you are very interested in national security, Dr. Cole, Cross added. Our system had the same reaction to you. What reaction, she asked. Park folded her hands. According to official records, Maya Cole appeared in federal databases 5 years ago, she said. Before that, there is a gap. Social security number issued late. No childhood medical records, no high school, no driver's license. Your first footprint is your college enrollment. Some people have messy childhoods, Maya said. Your med school evaluations are perfect, Cross said. Your residency evaluations are perfect. Your fellowship evaluations are perfect. And yet, when we called 3 of your attending physicians this morning, none of them could remember a single thing about you in the operating room. Maya thought of the hold music, of the woman at Hopkins saying the same words. No horror stories, Cross said. No praise, no anecdotes. For someone who performs the way you did today, that is unusual. Park met Maya's gaze, steady assessing. It is like someone built a record for you, she said, and did not bother to give you any edges. Before Maya could answer, the overhead speaker crackled to life. Attention, Kaipi, what attention? The operator said. Code Silver, facility lockdown in effect. All staff remain in place until further notice. Owen's head snapped up. Park and Cross exchanged a glance that did not look surprised. Maya sat very still in her chair, hearing the words echo in the air. Lockdown. The word felt heavier than the walls around them. For a heartbeat, no one in the conference room moved. The Code Silver announcement hung in the air like a residue. The fluorescent lights hummed. Somewhere down the corridor, a cart squeaked to a halt. Code Silver is a weapon on campus, Owen said quietly. Active threat or suspected one. Park was already on her feet, phone in hand. I need to talk to your security, she said. Cross did not reach for his phone. He adjusted his jacket instead, as if making sure something under it sat just right. Stay here, Owen told Maya. Maya looked at the closed door. If there is a weapon in my hospital, I am not staying in a conference room. This is not a drill, he said. It never is, she replied. Leonard appeared in the doorway without knocking breath, just a shade faster. The parking structure just went dark on cameras, he said. Security lost 3 feeds at once. Then we got Code Silver from Central. Any visual before they went down? Park asked. Leonard held up a tablet. His hand shook slightly as he tapped the screen. Here, he said. A grainy video filled the display. The angle was from high in a corner, looking down over the lower level of the parking structure. A ramp, a row of concrete pillars, painted lines. A few staff cars. And 3 black SUVs rolling in one after another, noses dipping only slightly as they took the turn. No license plates visible. windows tinted to a legal shade that still told you nothing. The first SUV stopped near the elevator lobby. The second and third flanked it, closing off clear paths around them. The feed stuttered for a second. Before it froze completely, the driver's door of the lead vehicle opened. A figure stepped out, broad shoulders, straight posture. The light caught just enough of his face to define the jaw. Maya felt something tighten in her chest. Her fingers curled against the table edge. Leonard tapped again, frustration in his movement, when the screen refused to show more. The cameras went offline right after that, he said. Security is sending a team, but with lockdown in place, the doors are sealed from the inside. Who has access to override locks here? Park asked. Security chief, me, and Central Command downtown if they feel like it. Anyone call this in, or did the system trigger it? Park pressed. System did, Leonard said. Motion and an unknown badge ping on the lower level. Park looked at Cross. This is your line, she said. You have friends in the tactical world. Recognize the vehicles. Could be anyone with funding and taste for anonymity, he said. They did not put decals on the side. Look at the way they parked, Maya said before she could stop herself. 3 heads turned toward her. They boxed the elevator and the ramp, she went on. No straight line out, no clean line in. That is not someone late for visiting hours. You have seen that before, Park said. Maya forced her shoulders to relax. Armored convoys are not subtle. Cross was watching her eyes narrow with interest rather than suspicion now. The threat is here, Park said. And 7 of your patients are intelligence connected. Where are they now? Most of the criticals are upstairs, Owen said. ICU and OR, a couple still in the step-down units. Lockdown means the ICU is sealed, correct? Park asked Precod Leonard. Doors are locked, access badge required, Leonard said. No visitors, staff only. Which means if someone gets in there, everyone is trapped with them, Park said. Maya stood. Hannah is in the OR, she said. Mitchell is in another. Elena is in the high-risk OB suite. The rest of your dots are probably in ICU. That is where the damage will be if this is targeted. Park nodded once decision made. We are going up, she said. Leonard, keep your staff in place as much as you can. Tell security any armed responders they see are either hospital police or wearing FBI jackets. Anything else you call me. Call you where? He asked. On the move. She flashed her badge at the small security camera in the corner of the conference room as if that would transmit the plan to the building itself. Cross stepped into the hall first. Stay behind us, he said to Maya and Owen, until we know who else brought guns to the party. The walk to the stairwell felt longer than it had that morning. The corridor lights seemed brighter, the white of the walls more sterile. The usual sounds of the hospital carts rolling, phones ringing, patients calling out had been muted by lockdown. Doors were closed. The waiting area chairs sat empty, television still murmuring to no one. Maya counted the beats of her footsteps on the tile. At the stairwell, Cross held the door for the others, then took point going up. His hand hovered near his hip. On the landing between floors, they passed a family pressed together against the wall, eyes wide. A nurse stood with them, hands out, calming them in a low voice. Sorry, Park said as they squeezed by. Stay put. You are safer away from doors. 2 flights up the sign for intensive care unit came into view. The double doors were closed, small glass windows reflecting the fluorescent lights. A red indicator above the badge reader glowed solid. Lock engaged. Owen swiped his badge. The light changed to green. The mechanism clicked. ICU prefers to control who comes in, he said. Right now you might be grateful for that. He pushed the door open. The air inside ICU felt stiller than downstairs, thicker with humidity from humidifiers and the faint dampness of linens. Monitors beeped in overlapping patterns, softer than in the trauma bays, but constant. Each bed had its own small island of light and attention. 6 of the 20 names from the board had found their way here. Maya saw them on the whiteboard near the nurse's station, written in black marker, a room number beside each. Mitchell Harris, post-op, sedated and ventilated. Hannah Reese, post-thoracotomy, in a room with 2 infusion pumps humming. Elena Sloan monitored by both ICU and OB, disconnected from the chaos for the moment, behind a glass door. The defense contractor with a chest tube. The federal building employee with a head injury. The logistics man with a pelvis full of fractures. Next to each of their names, someone had drawn a tiny green dot. Ruth stood at the central station headset around her neck, clipboard in hand. She looked up as the group entered. You picked a fine time to go private with the FBI, she said, but there was no humor in it this time. What is happening downstairs? Unknown vehicles in the parking structure, Park said. Code Silver is active. We have reason to believe some of your patients are deliberate targets, not just unlucky. Ruth looked at the board at the green dots. Her jaw tightened. That explains why my gut felt wrong when I saw 7 at once, she said. Owen frowned. You knew they were connected. I did not know, she said. I suspected. The same look in the eyes of their spouses, the way security took notes when they walked in. You pick up patterns after 3 decades in this building. Who has access to ICU right now? Park asked. Me, my nurses, respiratory assigned physicians. Security can get in if they override the lock. Visitors are all stuck in the waiting room unless they were already inside when the lockdown hit. As if in answer, a chime sounded. The elevator doors at the far end of the unit slid open. 4 men stepped out. They wore plain clothes, not scrubs, not suits. Their haircuts told a different story, short, practical. Their posture said training. 2 carried empty hands that did not look empty. 1 had a bulge at his waist that did not match a phone. The man in front walked like the corridor belonged to him. His hair had gone more silver since the last time Maya had seen him, but the lines of his face were cut in the same angles. The scar that ran from his left ear to his jaw had barely faded. General Elias Ward did not wear a uniform anymore. He did not need one to bring the feeling of command with him. He took in the unit in a quick pass. The beds, the nurses, the glass rooms. Then his gaze found Maya. He smiled. It did not reach his eyes. "Hello, Captain," he said. "Evening, Yeaton." The word cut through the beeps and the quiet hum of the machines. A couple of nurses looked up, glanced between the 2 of them, then back to the charting they pretended to be focused on. "My name is Dr. Cole," Maya said. "Of course it is, Big Say," Ward replied. Park stepped forward, badge raised. "Special Agent Jenna Park, FBI," she said. "Sir, this is a locked medical unit. No visitors during a code silver. I'm going to need you and your men to back up and identify yourselves." Ward did not look at her badge. "You brought the bureau," he said to Maya. "Someone must really want you wrapped in red tape." Cross moved to Park's side, his own badge visible now. His eyes were on Ward, scanning for recognition. "Ward?" "Ward," Cross said. The general's gaze slid to him. "Agent Cross," Ward said. "They send you out from behind a desk at last." "You have no official business here," Cross said. "This is an active investigation and a secure hospital unit. You and your team need to leave." Ward's smile thinned. "The people I work for outrank the people you work for, son," he said. "Always have." Park's hand lowered a fraction as she took in the exchange. "You 2 know each other," she said. "We have moved in intersecting circles," Ward replied. "I retire, he keeps climbing. Everyone plays their part." Maya's eyes flicked past Ward to the corridor behind him. The exit stairs, the elevator, the distance between him and the nearest patient room. Her hand went to her chest. Her fingers brushed the edge of her badge, feeling how breakable the plastic was. "Why are you here, General?" she asked. Ward focused on her again. "To make sure the right people live long enough to be useful," he said. "And to see whether you still remember how to operate with more than your hands." His gaze slid to the whiteboard behind Ruth. He read the names in a glance, the green dots. "Looks like someone already did my sorting, Gesheit," he said. 7 little lights on the board. 7 people your government cares about all in one place. Park stiffened. "How do you know about them?" she asked. "Because you were never chasing phantoms on a highway," Ward said. "You were cleaning up a list." He stepped farther into the unit. His men fanned out in subtle arcs. One positioned himself where he could see both the elevators and the door they had come through. Another casually leaned near the nurse's station, eyes tracking hand movements more than monitors. "Stop right there," Park said. Her voice rose enough that a patient 2 rooms over stirred. Ward paused, then lifted his hands away from his sides. His jacket shifted, and the edge of a holstered weapon came into view for a second. "Weapons are not allowed in here," Owen said. His voice cracked on the last word. This was his territory, and it was being rewritten. Ward glanced at the nearest ventilator, the monitor beside it, the delicate lines feeding medication into veins. "The people who want these 7 dead brought more than weapons into your hospital today," he said. "I am just the most honest one to show you." The unit seemed to contract around them, monitors and glass and soft noises drawing tighter. The red light above the door still glowed, a reminder that whatever was happening outside was not finished. Maya stepped forward just enough that she was no longer shielded by Park and Cross. "You should not be here," she said. "On the contrary," Ward answered. "This is exactly where I am supposed to be. Question is whether you are." He said it calmly, like an observation written in a margin. His eyes did not leave hers. The ICU seemed to hold its breath. Ward stood in the center of the corridor, hands lifted just far enough from his sides to show he was not reaching for his gun, not yet. The overhead lights gleamed off the glass doors of each room, throwing his reflection back at him in fragments. "You retired," Maya said. "Leavenworth, that was the deal." He chuckled once, a dry sound. "I served my time, Ifrithia," he said. "Then the people who wrote the deal decided they still needed what I know." Park kept her stance between him and the nearest bed. Her right hand hovered near her hip, not quite touching the holster. That is not how federal sentences work, she said. Ward glanced at her badge, then at Cross beside her. You are young, Ward said. You still think prison is about justice. It is about storage. They take you off the shelf when they want you again. Cross did not react. You walked into a federal facility, Cross said. Armed, during a lockdown. Whatever deals you think protect you do not extend this far. Ward shifted his weight. The small movement sent a ripple through his team. Their hands eased closer to their belts, to pockets that were shaped wrong for phones. Relax, Ward said mildly. If I wanted your 7 assets canvassed on stainless steel downstairs, you would have heard gunfire before you heard code silver. This is a visit, not a raid. He turned his head, scanning the beds again. His eyes lingered on Hannah's room, on the pale shape under the blankets on the tubing that snaked from her chest. That one, he said. She was not supposed to make it. You are welcome, Maya said. Do you think you did her a favor? He asked. Her jaw tightened. She is breathing, she replied. That is a start. It is a complication, Ward said. 7 walking, talking pieces of evidence, 7 liabilities. That is why they are here. Who is they? Park cut in. Ward finally looked at her as if she had earned a sliver of attention. People with a better view of the board than you or I, he said. You thought this was just a bad morning on I-70. Bless your heart. Cross took half a step forward. You were the one running the program, he said. You gave the orders Quinn testified about. You signed the execution lists. Do not pretend you were a pawn. Ward's gaze sharpened at the old name. She told you everything, did she? He asked. About what we did, where we did it, who we did it for. She told me enough, Cross said. Maya felt the conversation bending around her twisted lines, converging in a place her body remembered better than her mind wanted. The people who gave me those orders never saw a courtroom, Ward said. They sat behind glass, nodded at printouts, and went home in time for dinner. When she opened her mouth, they needed someone to burn. That someone was me. His attention swung back to Maya. You did the right thing, you say, he said. You told the truth. You just aimed too low. You killed prisoners who had surrendered, Maya said. The memory of sand and blood rose at the back of her throat. You signed off on airstrikes that wiped out hospitals. I executed mission parameters, Ward replied. Parameters written by people above my pay grade. You thought cutting out the visible tumor would cure the disease. That is not how deep it runs. You have a lot of philosophy for someone who walked in here with 3 armed men, Park said. Ward gave her half a smile. You think your partner is unarmed? He asked quietly. Cross did not look away from him, but a faint tension crept into his jaw. That is enough, Cross said. Turn around, hands behind your head. My team will escort you out, and you can tell your war stories to the people who sign your new orders. Ward studied him for a beat. I know who you answer to, he said. You can put on as many jackets as you like. The cut of the cloth does not change the man. Who do you think I answer to? Cross asked. The same man who pulled me off ice, Ward said. The one who likes to collect useful ghosts, Director Simon Hale. The name landed in the unit like a dropped instrument. Park blinked. Director who? She said. Cross moved. His gun was in his hand before the question finished. The report cracked through the ICU, sharp and merciless. The sound hit the glass, bounced back. Hannah's monitor jumped in alarm. Ward staggered, surprise flaring across his face before his knees buckled. The bullet had caught him high in the chest, just below the clavicle, where the vest he was not wearing could not help. Maya felt her body react before her mind did. She lunged forward, catching his weight as he stumbled back into the nurse's station. The impact drove the breath out of her, but she did not let go. Get him down, she snapped. Ruth had already cleared a patch of floor. Together they eased Ward onto his back. Blood spread in a dark, fast circle under his shoulder. For a second, everything sharpened. The hiss of oxygen, the click of an infusion pump, the echo of the shot still ringing in her ear. What did you do? Park shouted. Cross kept his weapon raised, now trained not on Ward but on Maya. He was reaching, Cross said. He named an active classified program director. He compromised ongoing operations. That is enough. You shot an unarmed Ikile man in an ICU, Owen said. His voice was thin with disbelief and anger. He was never unarmed, Cross replied. You just cannot see where the sharp edges are. He flicked his eyes toward Maya. Step away from him, doctor, he said. You are not patching this one up. If he bleeds out here, you lose a witness, Maya said. Unless that is what you want. Doctor, Park warned. Her own gun was in her hand now, sight lined up on Cross's chest. The 2 agents faced each other over Ward's bleeding body badges and allegiances caught in a knot. Everyone lower your weapons, Ruth said sharply. You are terrifying my nurses and my patients. No one listened. Maya pressed her gloved hand over the wound. Warm blood pushed against her palm, insistent. Bullet went in high, she muttered. Probably clipped the subclavian, maybe the apex of the lung. Oxygen is dropping, a nurse said, eyes on the portable monitor they had dragged over. Get me a trauma cart, Maya ordered. Right here, now. Step away, Cross repeated. Then you shoot me on the floor of your own crime scene, Maya said, not looking up. In front of half a dozen witnesses and enough cameras to make a training video. Go ahead, but you will be dragging 2 bodies, not 1. Ruth moved almost lazily to stand between Cross and the circle on the floor. Her face was calm. Her eyes were not. You want to kill the only person keeping this man from opening a vein across my ICU. You are going to have to go through me, Agent, she said. Cross's jaw clenched. Drop it, Park said to him. Jenna, he replied. The warning in his tone was a colleague's, not a stranger's. We are in a hospital, she said. And you just confessed on record to working for a director I have never been briefed about. Put the gun down. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Cross lowered the pistol slow enough to register the choice. He did not holster it. He let it hang in his hand muzzle pointed at the floor. Time, Ruth said under her breath, eyes on the wall clock. 4 minutes since Code Silver, the unit clerk replied. Pressure, Maya said. He needs volume and a clamp in the OR, but I'm not letting him crash here. Ward's eyelids fluttered. His breath came shallow and wet. You keep finding third ways, he rasped. Blood bubbled at the corner of his mouth. Save your breath, Maya said. I do not have much left, he replied. His hand caught her wrist with surprising strength. His palm was slick. Listen, he said. She leaned closer because habit made her. They are not in the beds, he said. The ones you should worry about. His gaze drifted past her toward the nurse's station. They have been here, he whispered. Watching. Making sure those 7 ended up on your table. His fingers dug into her sleeve, a last desperate emphasis. Staff, he said, not patients, someone you trust. His hand slipped. Maya held the pressure on his wound, but she knew from the feel of his pulse against her fingers that something had shifted inside him. The rhythm weakened, then stuttered. Crash cart, Ruth called. The cart arrived in a rush of metal and wheels. Pads slapped onto Ward's chest. The monitor screamed ventricular chaos. Charging 200, the nurse said. Clear, Ruth commanded. The shock snapped through Ward's body. His back arched, then sagged. The monitor flirted with a rhythm, then spiked into noise again. CPR, Maya said. She climbed up onto her knees beside him and started compression's heel of her hand on his sternum. His ribs creaked under the force. As her palms rose and fell, her eyes tracked the people around her. Owen pale, holding an IV bag high. Park gun still in hand, radio at her shoulder, voice clipped as she called for backup that was already late. Cross jaw tight, watching everything with a predator's focus. And Ruth standing over them all, hair escaping its bun, one hand on the monitor, the other on the trauma cart. For a moment their eyes met. There was something there she had not registered before. Not shock, not fear. Recognition. Stop compressions, Ruth said. Maya paused. We have not hit the 20-minute mark, she said. We are not trying to save his soul, Ruth replied. We are trying to save his information. She leaned down close enough that Ward, if he were still hovering near the surface, could hear. Who is in my house, she asked. Ward's eyelids fluttered again. His lips moved. Maya bent closer to catch it. You already met her, he said. She smiled when you walked in at 6:42 and marked your 7 in green. His head lolled to the side. The line on the monitor straightened. This time, when they shocked him, nothing changed. Ruth stared down at his still chest. For a heartbeat, something open passed across her face. Not grief, not satisfaction. Resignation. Time of death, 12:43, she said quietly. The nurse recorded it, pen scratching on the paper. Silence settled in that corner of the ICU, heavy and hot. Then a ringtone cut through it. Everyone turned. The sound came from Ruth's scrub pocket. She did not flinch. She reached in, pulled out the phone, and looked at the screen. You should not answer that, Park said. Ruth considered for one slow second, then exhaled. That is the thing about orders, she said. Some of them you cannot ignore. She tapped the screen, then set the phone on the edge of the trauma cart speaker facing up. Go ahead, she said. She's listening. A man's voice filled the space. Calm, educated, every vowel polished. Captain Quinn, he said. You have had a busy morning. For a moment, no one spoke. The voice on Ruth's phone coiled through the ICU smooth and unhurried, as if he had dialed in to discuss a calendar change, not a dead general on the floor. Maya felt the hairs lift on the back of her neck. I have to admit, the man continued, you exceeded projections, 7 for 7 in those conditions, that is better than your field numbers. Park recovered first. This is Special Agent Jenna Park with the FBI, she said. Identify yourself. A pause just long enough to make the silence feel intentional. I'm sure your partner can help with that, the voice said. Every eye shifted to Cross. His expression did not change. That in itself was an answer. Agent Cross, Park said slowly, "Who is this?" Cross did not meet her gaze. His eyes stayed on the phone. "Director Simon Hale," he said. Ruth cleared her throat. "Director," she said to the air, "you have an audience." "I counted on that," Hale replied. "Good afternoon, Captain Quinn." Maya stared at the phone. "My name is Dr. Cole," she said. "You have always been sentimental about names," Hale said. "Harper Quinn, Maya Cole, it is the same set of hands, the same decisions." There was no accent to place him. His consonants were careful neutral. His tone belonged to someone used to speaking in rooms where other people waited to react. "Director Hale," Park said, "you have just admitted to direct involvement with a convicted war criminal in a federal facility. This line is being recorded." "I am delighted," Hale said. "Consider this a briefing." "Is that what you call orchestrating a highway execution list?" Maya asked. "Execution lists are blunt tools," Hale said. "This morning was a refinement. 7 individuals with access to sensitive programs were exposed. Threat assessments indicated a significant risk of compromise. They needed to be taken off the open market. So you arranged a 20-car pileup, Owen said. His voice had gone quiet and flat. "The Department of Transportation will call it inclement weather and driver inattention," Hale said. "Their report will not include the third-party vehicle that nudged the right sedan at just the right moment. That is not their concern." "You killed 13 people to scare 7, Maya said. "The 13 will be mourned, compensated, and turned into talking points about road safety," Hale said. "The 7, if they had died at the scene, would have been forgotten in a week. Now they have your signature on them, Captain. That changes their value." Maya felt her jaw clench. "You could have protected them without putting them in front of a semi," she said. "I did, Hale answered. "I gave them you." Something in his certainty made the back of Maya's throat taste like dust again. Park stepped closer to the cart. "Director Hales," she said, "you are not on any org chart I have access to. Whatever authority you think you have, it does not cover firing squads in American hospitals." "I'm not running a firing squad," Hale said. "I am running asset management. Your own background check started flashing red when Dr. Cole's fingerprints hit the system. You know what she is." Park glanced at Maya, then at Cross. "What she is," Park said, "is a traumatologist who just pulled 7 people out of the grave. What you are is a man tying national security to a pile of bodies." "You are looking at a single day," Hale said. "I am looking at patterns. Captain Quinn has a decade of experience doing surgery where it is most needed, not where it is most comfortable. Then she tried to vanish into civilian life. That is an inefficient use of resources." "Resources," Owen repeated softly. Hale went on. 3 years ago, we let her disappear," he said. "We watched for a while. She did not contact foreign services. She did not sell secrets. She stitched up drunk drivers and bar fights. It was almost charming." Ruth's face stayed very still. "But you never lost track of her," Maya said. "Of course not," Hale replied. "You do not turn off a beacon like that. You dim it. You wait." He paused, letting the words settle. "And when we needed proof that the ghost surgeon was still as good as the legend, we presented her with a problem worthy of her talents." Maya looked at Ruth. The nurse did not flinch under the attention. "You were here," Maya said, "waiting." "I have been here 5 years," Ruth replied. "People come and go. Someone had to keep an eye on the revolving door." "You recruited a charge nurse," Park said to the phone, "to babysit one of your assets." "I recruited a combat medic who was tired of watching children bleed in tents," Hale said. Ruth chose to work in a place where she could still feel useful. "When we noticed Captain Quinn taking an interest in Denver, it seemed efficient." "You could have told me," Maya said to Ruth. "And said what?" Ruth asked quietly. "Hi, I used to stuff gauze into holes made by your government. Now I clock in and out on a badge like everyone else. But if you ever show up, I have a script to follow." She shook her head. "I do not enjoy lying," she added. "I'm good at it when I have to be." Park lifted her radio. "Dispatch, this is Agent Park," she said. "I need confirmation on a Director Simon Hale, any agency. Command level, cross-reference with Ward's case file." Static fizz, then a voice came back. "Park, this is Control," the dispatcher said. "We are routing your query. Stand by." Hale chuckled softly. "They will not find me in the places you have clearance for," he said. "We are getting off topic." He shifted his tone a fraction, turning it back toward clinical. "Captain," he said, "you have proven that suppression did not blunt your abilities. You improvised under pressure, violated protocols when necessary, and delivered results that defied statistical expectation. You are in blunt terms wasted in a civilian trauma center." "I save lives here," Maya said. "You saved 7 lives that matter to people like me," Hale said. "Most of the others would have lived or died, regardless of who was holding the scalpel. That is not where your skills make the most impact." "Let me guess," Maya said. "You have a place in mind." "I have several," Hale replied. You will see one if you accept. Park cut in sharper now. What does that mean? She asked. It means Ruth has a package for our captain, Hale said. She will hand it to her when we are done talking. Inside, you will find identification that reflects your real service travel documents and a briefing on a situation in Eastern Europe. 3 intelligence assets are waiting in a facility that does not officially exist. They are bleeding in ways local surgeons cannot address. You could save them. And if she says no, Owen asked. Hale did not answer immediately. When he spoke, the pleasant tone did not change, but the temperature of the room seemed to drop. Then the 7 people she saved today will experience complications, Hale said. Not dramatic ones, nothing that would draw too much attention. A sudden clot here, an infection that is slow to respond there, the sort of bad timing any risk manager could explain away. You are threatening patients, Park said. I am outlining cause and effect, Hale replied. If Captain Quinn does not put her skills where they are needed most, I am less inclined to divert resources to the ones she pulled off the table this morning. Maya felt her throat go tight. They are hostages, she said. They are leverage, he said. And they are already alive because of you, which puts us ahead on the ledger. Owen took a step toward the phone. You touch any of my patients, he said, and I will testify in every room with a microphone until someone listens. Hale sounded genuinely amused. You are welcome to try, Dr. Blake, you said. The last time Captain Quinn testified, it made for compelling footage. It did not change the structure, it only rearranged who sat in which chair. He returned to Maya as if the rest of them were static. You are imagining this as a choice between good and evil, QVC, he said. It is not. It is a choice between impact and irrelevance. You can continue pretending that each drunk driver and kitchen accident is a noble battle, or you can accept that some people, some missions matter more. You are not qualified to decide whose life matters, Maya said. Neither are you, he replied. The difference is that my job requires me to try. The radio on Park's shoulder crackled. Agent Park Control here, the dispatcher said. We found no listing for a Director Simon Hale in any accessible database. Your query was flagged and rerouted. We were instructed to tell you this channel is now monitored. Park's jaw tightened. Instructed by whom, she asked. By a supervisor with a number code I do not recognize, the dispatcher said. Ma'am, he says you are to maintain position and await further direction. The line went dead. See, Hale said lightly, some rooms are above your pay grade. Maya felt the walls of the ICU closing in not from architecture but from reach. How long, she asked. How long do I have to decide? From now, Hale said, 12 hours. You think you can move me like a piece across a board? She said. I do not think, he answered. I plan. The plane out of Denver leaves at 0600 tomorrow. The credentials in Ruth's pocket will get you on it under the name you were born with. If you are not in that seat when the wheels leave the ground, we will move to a different strategy. You will kill them, she said. I will stop protecting them, he corrected. The world is not short on threats. Ruth shifted the envelope in her scrub top, crinkling softly. You could have offered this without the wreck, Maya said. You could have walked into any veterans hospital and found surgeons who know how to work under fire. I am not interested in dozens of good enough, Hale said. I am interested in the one who disobeyed orders for the right reasons and still did the job better than anyone else. You are rare, Captain. I do not waste rare. He let the word sit. The beeping of the ICU monitors filled the space between syllables. When this call ends, Hale said, Ruth will hand you the package. My people will arrive to collect Ward and his associates and to tidy up any physical traces we do not need. Agent Cross will go with them for debriefing. Agent Park will stay because someone has to be on record pretending this was a normal bad day. You are not giving orders in my hospital, Owen said. You are mistaken, Hale replied. I already did. You simply have not seen all of them executed yet. There was a faint rustle on the line paper against paper. 11 hours, 58 minutes, and some seconds, Captain, he said. Choose where you want your hands to be when that clock runs out. The line clicked. Silence settled in again, thicker than before. Ruth picked up the phone, turned it face down, to be sure it had truly disconnected, then reached into the inner pocket of her scrub top. She pulled out a plain manila envelope creased from being carried against her skin. Her eyes met Maya's. I did not know exactly when he would call, she said. Only that one day he would ask me to give you this. Maya did not reach for it. What is in there? She asked. Who you used to be, Ruth said, and who he wants you to be again. Park holstered her gun slowly. This is evidence, she said. Chain of custody statements the whole thing. You cannot just hand her a package from a ghost director and pretend this is normal. Ruth nodded. Then put it in your log, she said. Sign wherever you need to. The envelope does not care whose hand opens it. She held it out. After a moment, Maya took it. The paper was warm from Ruth's body heat, heavier than it looked. Through the glass of Hannah's room, the monitors traced fragile, persistent rhythms. Up the hall, Mitchell's ventilator sighed in even intervals. Elena lay with one hand over her belly, eyes closed, unaware of any of it. Maya closed her fingers around the envelope. The weight did not change, but her shoulders felt a fraction lower, as if the center of gravity in the room had shifted and landed there in her hands. The envelope stayed in her hand as the ICU shifted into another new version of normal. Hale's people arrived in under 20 minutes. They did not wear uniforms. Their badges had numbers instead of names. They spoke in low voices to Leonard in a corner, took custody of Ward's body with efficient indifference, and led Cross away in cuffs that looked strangely ceremonial. Park argued. Not shouting, but with the flat, insistent tone of someone used to fighting for jurisdiction. It did not matter. Whatever calls had been made while Ruth's phone sat on the trauma cart had gone higher than her reach. By the time the red lockdown light above the ICU doors blinked off and the code silver was cleared, Ward was gone. Cross was gone. The blood on the floor had been wiped into a memory under a layer of detergent. The patients were still there. Maya spent the next hours moving between rooms. In Mitchell Harris's room, the ventilator sighed, and the monitor traced a steady, sedated rhythm. His face looked softer without pain twisted into it. His hands bruised from IVs and impact lay palm up on the blanket. In Hannah's room, the chest tubes drained slower now, her heart beat on the screen in regular peaks and valleys. A nurse sat by the bed, charting one foot, tapping quietly to music only she could hear. In Elena's room, 2 monitors shared the space. One showed Elena's vitals still fragile but holding. The other showed a small staccato heartbeat that belonged to someone not yet in the world. Elena slept with her hands spread over her belly, fingers rising and falling with each breath. The defense contractor with the chest tube watched sports with the sound off, eyes glazed from pain medication. The federal building employee muttered questions at the ceiling about missed meetings. The logistics man drifted in and out, his pelvis held together with rods and external frames. Each room had its own smell, its own light. Antiseptic and plastic. The blue wash of machines in the dim. The faint sweetness of a get-well balloon bobbing near the ceiling in one corner. Every time Maya looked up at the ICU whiteboard, the 7 green dots were there, small and precise. Her hands did the work they had always done. Checking drains, adjusting orders, writing notes that translated blood and bone into numbers and plans. Her mind ticked around the edges of Hale's voice, the feel of the envelope, the taste of dust that kept trying to return. Near the end of the shift, Owen found her at the window that overlooked the parking structure. The SUVs were gone. Sunlight slid along the concrete ramps, bleaching them into something ordinary. "You should go home," he said. She watched a car pull out onto the street below, turn, and merge with traffic. It looked like every other car that had done that before it. "I have a few more notes," she said. He did not look at the chart in her hand. His gaze dropped to the envelope tucked between her fingers and the clipboard. "You are not the only one carrying it around," he said. "I heard the part about 12 hours. "Everyone heard?" she replied. "Park wants you to talk," he said. "She called her boss, or tried to. Whatever this Hale machine is, it has longer arms than ours." "That does not surprise me." He shifted, leaning one shoulder against the wall. "You have options," he said. "Not as many as you should, but some." "Such as?" she asked. "She mentioned protective custody and," he said. "New identity again. Testimony again. Paper trails and hearings and trying to drag this thing into the light." "I tried that once," she said. "You are welcome to read the transcripts if you like. They make for dry bedtime material." "You think it did not matter?" he asked. "They locked Ward up for a while," she said. "They erased me on paper. Hale just slid into the empty seat." Owen rubbed a hand over his face. "You could also stay, he said. "Ignore him. Rip up whatever's in that envelope, throw your phone in a river, keep showing up here and saving whoever rolls through the door." She pictured it. The board filling with names, the cases blurring into shifts, the nights like this one full of adrenaline and bad coffee and small victories. "You think he will let me do that?" she asked. He did not answer. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the last light drain out of the sky. The city below flicked on in points window by window. "Go home," he said finally. "Sleep for 3 hours. You can make bad decisions on a full stomach or an empty one. I recommend the former." "I am not hungry," she said. "Then at least get off my unit," he replied. "Ruth will start charging you rent if you loiter much longer." At the nurse's station, Ruth pretended not to listen. Her eyes flicked up once as Maya passed. There was something like apology there, buried deep. "Check on them once more around midnight," Maya said to Ruth, nodding at the 7 names. "I would have done that even before the green dots," Ruth said. Maya left the hospital through the staff exit. The night air hit her face cool after the controlled climate inside. The parking lot hummed with sodium lights. Her car looked exactly as it had that morning, a modest sedan with a dent in the rear bumper and a layer of pollen on the windshield. The envelope sat on the passenger seat by the time she turned the ignition. Her apartment was 10 minutes away in a building that looked like every other brick rectangle on the block. Upstairs, the hallway smelled faintly of cooking and detergent. Her door unlocked with the same soft click it always did. Inside, the space was small and neat. Couch, table, 2 chairs, a shelf with a few books and a plant trying hard to survive near the single window. The kitchen was clean more from neglect than effort. She dropped her keys in the bowl by the door and set the envelope on the table. For a long time, she did not touch it. She washed her hands instead, watching the hospital soap rinse off into the sink. The creases at the base of her fingers had gone pale from gloves. Her knuckles ached. When her hands were dry, she sat down and slid a finger under the flap. Inside, she found a stack of documents clipped together. The first was an identification card. Department of Defense. Her face younger in the photo, hair pulled back tighter, eyes harder. Quinn Harper, Civilian Medical Attaché, Special Activities. The next pages were orders. Dense paragraphs about assignments, locations, reporting structures that did not list addresses. There was a plane ticket with her legal birth name on it. Departure Denver at EO 600 hours, connecting through a city she knew to be a hub for flights that did not all exist on schedules. At the back, a thin manila folder held a printed briefing. Region in Eastern Europe. A facility described only by grid coordinates. 3 case summaries anonymous but detailed. Asset 1, male mid-40s, multiple gunshot wounds to the abdomen and pelvis currently in unstable condition at an undisclosed site. Asset 2, female 30s, blast injuries to both legs. Hemorrhagic shock, inadequate local surgical support. Asset 3, age unknown, penetrating chest trauma, complicated by pre-existing cardiac anomalies, no access to specialized care. Each line read like the intake board downstairs, except the distances were measured in border crossings instead of blocks. At the very bottom of the stack was a single page with handwriting instead of type. Captain Quinn, you have spent 12 years saving lives in places that do not appear on maps, and 3 years stitching up strangers who thought their worst day was a traffic ticket. Today you bridged those 2 worlds for a few hours. You know the difference between theater and necessity. I am not asking you to like the methods. I am asking you to admit that your skills do more for this country when applied at the sharp end of the spear. If you get on the plane, the assets in this file will live, and the 7 you saved today will receive care that would bankrupt any normal patient. They will also remain alive, which is no small thing. If you do not, the 7 will return to the care of a system that loses people every day for reasons no one can quite explain. You once chose to speak truth to power. This time, I'm giving you the power to decide who walks away. Hail. She read it twice. The ink was dark, the strokes steady, the kind of handwriting that did not allow for hesitation. The room around her felt smaller with each sentence. Her phone buzzed on the table. Owen. She answered. Tell me you are home, he said. I am home, she replied. You sound like you ate a grenade. Long day. It just got longer, he said. The 7 you touched today, all of them, their vitals started slipping about 15 minutes ago. Blood pressure's down sats, wavering labs turning weird in the same way. The others are stable. She closed her eyes. Any obvious cause? She asked. No, he said. No new bleeds on scans. No overt infections yet. It is like their bodies decided they are tired of the miracle. I have got critical care and surgery all over them. We are buying time, but it feels like a tide going out. The clock on her stove read 11:03 p.m. 11 p.m. Can you get back here? He asked. I know that is an ugly thing to ask. I would not ask if it were not all 7. I could come back and patch each leak as it appears, she said slowly. And next time Hale wants my attention, he will pull the same string. So, do we do nothing? Owen asked. Do we let them slip? The question sat between them. It did not have a clean edge. I will call you back, she said. Do not take too long, he said. They do not have hours to spare. She hung up. The phone continued to vibrate every few seconds with new notifications. Park, unknown numbers. She flipped its screen down. The room had gone very quiet. The only sound was the faint hum of the fridge. Her hands found the edge of the table. The wood felt cool under her palms. She picked up the phone again and dialed the number on Hale's note. He answered before the first ring completed. Captain, he said, I was beginning to wonder if you had lost your curiosity. You are touching them, she said. The 7 upstairs. You started something, and now you are watching me watch them drown. I am doing nothing, he said. Their injuries are serious. Complications happen. You know this. Not in sync, she said. Not all at once. You could drive back and spend the night performing 7 encore performances, he said. You would probably win. You often do. The next week you would be in the same position with a different set of names when I needed to talk. You are admitting it, she said. I am acknowledging that I can influence which problems reach your table, he said. If you want those 7 to have boring, unremarkable recoveries, you know what price I am asking. You are a monster, she said. I am a function to, he replied. So are you. The difference is, I accepted my job description a long time ago. Silence stretched. The plane leaves in 7 hours, he said. If you are on it, I will make certain that Mitchell, Hannah, Elena, and the others have charts that would make any attending proud. If you are not, I will pay attention to other fires. You are not giving me a choice, she said. I am giving you 2, Gaye, he said. The fact that both hurt does not make them imaginary. He let out a small breath. Some decisions are not about what you want, Captain, he said. They are about who you are willing to let die. Think about that while you drive. Who says I'm driving anywhere? She asked. If you were going to stay, you would have already hung up on me, he said gently. He ended the call. She sat there for a minute longer, listening to the quiet. Then she stood. The envelope went back onto the passenger seat. Her keys slid into the ignition. The engine turned over with a familiar cough. The streets were mostly empty. Traffic lights changed for no one. The city felt hollowed out like a stage after the audience had gone home. On the highway, heading out of downtown, green signs loomed overhead, reflective letters glowing in her headlights. Left lane Airport, Interstate 70 West. Right lane Eastbound Industrial District, Riverfront Terminals. Her hands tightened on the wheel. Her phone lit up on the console, Park's name. She put it on speaker. Tell me you are not getting on that plane, Park said without preamble. I am driving, Maya said. To where? That is the question, Maya said. You go to the airport, he owns you, Park said. You go back to the hospital, he owns them. There has to be another way. Ward's voice flickered against the inside of her skull. You always find a third way. She inhaled once slow. The air smelled like old upholstery, and the faint trace of antiseptic still clinging to her sleeves. Maybe there is, she said. She flipped on her turn signal. The blinker ticked loud in the quiet car as she eased into the right lane away from the airport sign, toward the dark stretch of road that led to warehouses, docks, and ships that did not care about flight schedules or federal watch lists. The further she drove, the emptier the city became. Streetlights thinned from a steady grid to lonely pairs guarding intersections. Storefronts gave way to warehouse facades, blank metal rolling doors, marked only by fading unit numbers. The sodium glow above her blinked in and out, leaving patches of darkness that swallowed the car for a beat before spitting it back into amber. The signs changed too. Less talk of exits and downtown attractions, more of truck routes and terminal access roads. Riverfront terminals, 2 miles, commercial traffic only. Her phone buzzed every few minutes. Park, Owen, unknown numbers. She let it vibrate itself into silence. At the gate to the terminals, a board guard in a reflective vest stepped out of a small booth, clipboard in hand. His breath steamed in the cool air. Ma'am, freight only past this point, he said, leaning down to her window. You lost. Looking for a ship that needs a medic, she said. He blinked once, then barked a short laugh. You are about 6 miles from the coast, lady. There is a river, she said. Rivers go somewhere. He squinted at her, then looked over her shoulder into the car. No luggage, no duffel bags. An envelope on the passenger seat, papers peeking out. You with any outfit? He asked. Union Company, anything. I am a doctor, she said. I know how to stop bleeding and keep lungs inflating. I am paid up on my license, and I do not faint at the sight of my own work. He studied her for a long moment, then sighed. Head up ahead to Pier 9, he said. Night crews fuel up there. If anyone is crazy enough to take on extra human cargo, it will be them. He lifted the barrier with the press of a button. The gate arm rattled as it climbed. Pier 9 sat under a forest of cranes. The river was a wide, dark strip beyond invisible except where lights from the opposite bank smeared across it. Ships loomed in their berths, hulking outlines with names painted on their bows in chipped white. She parked near a cluster of shipping containers and killed the engine. For a moment, she sat in the dim quiet of the car hands on the steering wheel. Then she grabbed the envelope, slipped it under the seat, and stepped out. The night air by the water was colder, edged with diesel exhaust and the metallic tang of the river. Dock workers moved like shadows between trucks and pallets, shouting to each other over the clank of chains and the rumble of engines. She walked toward the nearest ship with its gangway down. The name on the hull read Al Meridian in flaking letters. Its hull loomed above the pier, scarred and rust-streaked. A man in a heavy jacket stood at the top of the gangway, a clipboard in his hand. His beard was more gray than black. A cigarette glowed between 2 fingers. You are not scheduled, he called down, voice rough. Story of my life, she said. He frowned. We are full, he said. Full, he said. Cargo and crew. Manifest is closed. Do you have a medic? She asked. We have a first aid kit, he said, and a crew that knows not to stick their hands where they can lose them. That will help until it does not, she said. You are going where? He hesitated, then shrugged. East Hifmeka, he said. Far enough. East has a lot of sharp edges right now, she said. I have experience stitching those edges back together. He took a long drag from his cigarette eyes, never leaving her face. You have a fancy degree, he asked. I have a state license and scars on my hands, she said. You can see both. She held up her palms. Under the faint glow of the pier lights, the thin lines across her knuckles showed old and neat. The callus at the base of her thumb had thickened over years of retractors and clamps. You get seasick, he asked. I get bored, she said. He snorted. What were you doing before you drove down from whatever shiny part of town you came from, he asked. Saving people who did not ask to be pawns, she said, and being told that my options were slavery in a nicer uniform or watching them die. He studied her a second longer, then flicked his cigarette into a puddle where it hissed. Name, he asked. Maya, she said. Ship does not care what your name is, he said. It cares if you work. You come aboard, you are crew. No complaining, no questions about the schedule, and if we get boarded for inspection, you duck when I tell you. Who are you? She asked. Hassan Hisetmi, he said, master of this rust bucket, owner of my own bad decisions. Do you have a room? She asked. You will not like it, he said. It will have a roof, she replied. That is already an upgrade. He jerked his head toward the gangway. Leave the car, he said. We sail with the tide, 30 minutes. She glanced back at the sedan. Owen's voice echoed in her head. Parks. Hales. The envelope was still under the seat, invisible from the outside. A small square of weight waiting in the dark. She did not go back for it. Instead, she climbed the gangway. The metal rang under her boots. At the top, Hassan handed her a clipboard with a form printed in a language she did not read and English layered over it. Temporary crew. Duties medical support, general labor. Compensation reduced. Termination arrival at destination or at captain's discretion. She signed in a neat hand that wrote the name Quinn before she caught herself and scratched it into something less clear. The crew quarters were a narrow corridor of metal doors on either side. Hassan opened one. Shared room, he said. You get the upper bunk. Try not to fall on the poor soul below when we hit a swell. The space smelled of detergent, old sweat, and something fried. A metal locker waited against one wall, paint-chipped. A curtain sagged on a bent rod in front of the bunk. It is fine, she said. You say that now, he replied. He left her there with a nod. The ship's horn sounded once, a low, mournful note that vibrated in her chest. Outside, she heard the shouts of crew, the clank of ropes, the groan of metal shifting against bollards. She did not unpack. There was nothing to unpack. Her phone forgotten in her pocket until then buzzed again. The screen showed a list of missed calls and messages. Owen's name sat at the top. She stepped back out into the corridor and climbed the narrow stairs to the deck. The city lights spread along the riverbank reflected in broken lines on the water. The cranes loomed like frozen skeletons. The ship shuddered under her feet as the engines engaged. She swiped open the latest message. From Owen, time 5:12 a.m. All 7 just stabilized. She read the lines that followed. BP back up. Labs correcting. Vent settings coming down on Mitchell and Hannah. Elena's baby doing better than the textbooks say he should. It is like someone turned a dial in the right direction on all of them at once. Whatever you chose, whatever you did, it worked. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. She could picture him at the nurse's station, hair flattening on one side. Again, hands still stained at the cuticles, staring at monitors, like they might confess something if he watched long enough. She typed, I did not do anything. She deleted that. She typed again. Take care of them. Use their real names. She sent it. Another message arrived before she could lock the phone. From Owen. Where are you? She looked out at the river. The dock was already sliding away, the pier shrinking. The city was becoming a low glow on the horizon, separating from them with each churn of the propellers. She typed, away. She started to add more, then stopped. Another vibration. From unknown. You made an interesting choice, Captain. Hale's number. No name attached, but the tone seeped through the words. She stared at the screen. Her reflection sat in the glass for a second, overlaying the text, the lines of her face cut by the faint crack near the corner of the phone. She did not answer. Instead, she walked to the rail. The water below was dark, a surface broken by small waves lit in shards by the ship's running lights. She curled her fingers around the phone, once feeling the warmth from her hand in the casing, the memory of every number saved there. Then she opened her fingers. The phone fell in a short arc, a small silent object. It hit the river without a splash she could hear over the thrum of the engines. The screen glowed for a breath as it spun, then the light vanished into black. The wind off the water smelled clean for a moment like rain that had not yet fallen. Behind her the deck lights hummed. The ship pointed its bow toward the long stretch of dark ahead. 3 months later the air tasted like dust again, but it was a different dust. It blew across the Jordanian plain in thin veils, catching in the guy lines of the tents and in the folds of the faded tarps that made up the walls of the clinic. Plastic flapped with each gust. The sun pressed down hard and unfiltered, bleaching the sky to a pale, merciless blue. Dr. Quinn ducked into the main medical tent and let the canvas fall closed behind her. Inside, the light shifted from blinding to dim. The air was thick with the sour, sweet smell of antiseptic sweat and boiled water. A line of cots stretched along one side, each with a patient under a thin blanket. Children with hollow eyes. Old men whose skin seemed stretched too tight over bone. Women with bandaged arms and babies balanced on their hips. "Morning, doctor," called Tariq from the far end of the tent. He was 20 maybe, with quick hands and an expression that swung between eagerness and exhaustion. "We have 6 new arrivals from the northern checkpoint. Shrapnel mostly. One looks bad." "Show me," she said. He led her to a cot near the center. A boy lay there, 12 or 13, his leg wrapped in a dressing that was already soaked through. His lips were cracked. Flies hovered until Tariq waved them away with a cloth. "Blast yesterday," Tariq said. "No formal surgery. They packed it and sent him down the line. Temperature is climbing." She knelt and peeled back the dressing. The wound ran jagged along the shin, a trench dug by metal. Someone had tried to clean it, but dirt still clung to the edges. The smell of infection was already there underneath the iron tang of blood. "Call for a basin-fresh solution in the good gauze," she said. "We need to wash this properly. If we are lucky, we can keep the bone." "Good gauze is for the worst cases," Tariq reminded her. "This is one of them," she said. He nodded and hurried off. She washed her hands in a bucket of cloudy water, then poured another pitcher over them until the worst of the residue ran clear. The gloves they had were thin and made for smaller hands, but she snapped them on anyway. Her fingers had gotten more scars in the past months. Tiny nicks from improvised instruments, a burn from a stove that doubled as a sterilizer. Skin darkened by the sun into a color that did not match any photo on her old IDs. When Tariq returned, they worked in tandem. She talked to the boy in a mix of English and broken Arabic, keeping her voice low and even while her hands moved. "It will hurt," she said, "but then it will hurt less." His eyes stayed on her face, his jaw clenched. They irrigated the wound until the water ran clear, then clearer. She trimmed devitalized tissue fingers steady even when the boy sucked in sharp breaths. Around them the tent went on humming. Someone coughed, a baby cried. The generator outside sputtered, caught, and continued. When she finished, the wound looked cleaner. Not good, not yet, but headed in that direction. "We will watch it," she said. "If the fever does not come down by tomorrow, we open it again. If you feel worse, you tell Tariq, or you yell loud enough that everyone hears." The boy managed a small nod. "Shukran," he whispered. "You are welcome," she replied. Later, in the sliver of shade outside the tent, she sat on a low plastic stool and wrote in the worn notebook that had become her charting system. Names when there were names, ages when someone knew, wounds, treatments, outcomes. The pages were filled with loops of ink cramped to make the paper last. There was no electronic record here, no whiteboard with green dots, just the ledger and the memory of each case. "You write as if someone will read it," said a voice above her. She looked up. Hassan leaned against a tent pole, a mug of tea in his hand. He had traded the heavy jacket of the ship for a lighter shirt sleeves rolled up, but the lines at the corners of his eyes were the same. "They might," she said. "Who?" he asked. "The dust." "Maybe," she said. He took a sip. "The camp director is thrilled with you, Ed," he said. "He says having a surgeon who does not flinch makes his job easier. He is less thrilled that you do not like giving speeches to visiting officials." "They do not need to hear from me," she said. "They need to look at the patients." "They prefer numbers," Hassan said. "They can write numbers into grant proposals." She tapped the notebook. "I have numbers," she said. "They can bring me paper and I will copy them." He smiled faintly. "You could have gone the other way, Fitayi." "Your way," he said. "Taken the job with the good pay and bad conscience." "That job did not exist," she said. "Everything exists," he said, "just not always at the same time." She closed the notebook. "Why did you help me on the pier?" she asked. "Because you looked like someone running toward something instead of away from it," he said. "Most people who board my ship are only doing the second." He tilted his head. "Are you running toward something?" he asked. "Shimon, but..." he asked. She looked at the camp stretching out from the clinic. Rows of tense laundry lines strung between them, children kicking a rag ball in the dust, a woman stirring a pot over an open flame, the sun glinting off a stack of water jugs. "Toward work," she said. "That is enough." He nodded as if that answer made sense to him. "Well," he said, "if the river and the sea ever get boring, there are other routes." He walked away whistling under his breath. Months later, the camps changed, but the routine did not. Jordan turned to South Sudan, where the mud tried to pull boots off at each step, and the clinic walls were corrugated metal instead of canvas. South Sudan turned to Yemen, where the air tasted of smoke and salt, and the distant boom of something burning out of sight. In each place there was a line of people with injuries that did not care about borders. In each place someone introduced her as Dr. Quinn or Dr. Maya, or just doctor, adding no surname at all. Her hands stayed busy. She taught local nurses how to improvise chest drains from plastic bottles and tubing. She showed young doctors how to find the pulsing artery in a sea of blood by feel alone. She argued for more antibiotics, more sterile gloves, more basic supplies, and sometimes she won. News reached the camps in fragments. A printed article tacked to a board in South Sudan in English and another language about a mass casualty event in Denver a year ago. 20 vehicles, 7 near deaths. A line about a hospital that refused to release the name of a surgeon cited in several miraculous saves. A rumor from a visiting NGO worker about a quiet internal investigation at an American agency, some director retired out of sight, some program reassigned a new name. An email forwarded through 3 hands to a shared computer in Yemen, from a hospital administrator named Leonard addressed to an outdated address she had once used. The body of the message was short. "Thought you should know," it said. "The 7 are still alive, 1 works fewer hours now, 1 went back to school, 1 brought her baby by the unit last month. They ask about you." There was a second line added in a different font as if typed later. "Dr. Blake says you still owe him a coffee." She printed the message and folded it into the notebook between 2 pages of scrawled notes on supplies. Some nights when the generators cut out and the camp lay under a sky so full of stars it looked overcrowded, she lay on her cot and listened to the breathing in the tent around her. Children, volunteers, nurses, her own breath. Hale's voice did not visit her as often as it used to. When it did, it was usually in the lulls between cases, not in the middle of them. His questions about value and impact had not changed. Her answers had. Here, every patient was an asset by the only measure that made sense. Alive? Hurt? In front of her? She did not know if he still searched for her. She knew he could if he wanted to. People like him did not forget about people like her. She knew something else too. They had taught her for years how to disappear from maps, how to make exits look like accidents, how to erase footprints in the sand. In the first part of her life, she had used those skills because she was told to. In the second, she had used them to save herself. Here she used them to move supplies under the nose of lazy inspectors, to ferry vaccines past checkpoints that were supposed to be closed to make sure the patients who would not survive an audit still reached a bed. The techniques were the same, the use was not. One afternoon in Yemen, a young nurse from the capital watched her place a central line in a patient whose veins had long since given up on being cooperative. "You do that like you have done it in the dark," the nurse said. "I have," she answered. The nurse hesitated. "Were you military?" she asked. "Once," Dr. Quinn said. "What changed?" the nurse asked. She considered. "Locations," she said. "And who gets to decide what my work is worth?" Later that day, she walked out of the clinic into the open air. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the camp. Children's voices drifted on the wind. Somewhere a radio played music that climbed and fell in a scale she did not recognize. She flexed her hands once, watching the tendons move under the skin. They were the same hands that had held retractors in secret facilities and pushed clamps onto arteries under mortar fire. The same hands that had written carefully neutral notes in American hospitals and signed temporary crew manifests on rusted ships. They would always be those hands. She could not change what they had done. She could decide where they went next. She walked back into the clinic. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.